Kemar, hey, nice to meet you, and welcome to That Will Never Work. I've been looking forward to this. What I found is kind of the best way for us to start here is just to jump right in. So, why don't you take a minute, tell me a little bit about what you're working on, and then maybe what I can help you with.
No, definitely. I really appreciate you having me, Mark. This is a true blessing in a lot of different ways. Um, so literally, I'm a sneakerhead and a software engineer. So it's really interesting for me because I have two sets of different problems that I'm always trying to optimize for, making better products and then also getting the latest, greatest sneaker. But I'm not the only one, man. There's tons of people out there that actually, collect sneakers, invest in sneakers, and I operate a marketplace that basically allows buyers and sellers to transact.
And so, I listen, I know there's a big commonality between software engineers and musicians. I can't tell you how many people I know who are into music and into coding. Is there a commonality with sneakers? Are you a one-off, or is that a pretty common thing?
More and more, I tend to find, other people on the internet through different communities now. I do remember a few years back or early on in my collecting career, like it was very lonely. So it was more of a superpower, so I got to be able to, automate some tasks that didn't necessarily require so much manual work. So that was pretty cool. But like to your correlation, I grew up originally from Brooklyn, specifically in Atlanta, East Atlanta. And I was influenced by these things: sneakers, culture, basketball, music, and those things definitely drove a lot of my core passions and stuff like that. The technology was just like a skill set I picked up along the way.
So this to get everyone up to speed. So the first thing is, I am kind of stodgy about this stuff. I think up until a few years ago, the sneakers that I wore were like the ones you buy at Costco. So to me, even spending $120 on a pair of running shoes was obscene. But what I gather from sneaker collectors is these things go for thousands of dollars. They're one of a kind items.
Yes.
So give me a good sense of what we're talking about here in the sneaker world.
No, absolutely. So we're talking about the top end of the sneaker market. Like we're talking, not really luxury designer. Those are great, but more so the limited edition stuff that Nike or Adidas or any of your favorite brands produce. They never meet demand, seemingly, right? So they sell out in minutes, and then they basically get resold on the secondary market, for upwards of hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Mark, it's crazy.
So don't take this the wrong way. Is it kind of like sneaker scalping?
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. That is definitely one way to look at it. I've had a lot of conversations with partners and investors and whatnot, and like finding analogous things in markets, like, definitely ticket scalping. People kind of see the same kind of flip there.
But do you like? I mean, the analogy I was thinking about was basically, you probably go to a store, you go to the Nike store, and you stand in line at 2 o'clock in the morning, so that when it goes on sale the next morning, you can buy one of the 5 pairs they have, and then you wait a few days and flip it. Am I picturing this, or is is it a more systematic process than that?
That's what it used to be like probably in the late 90s, early 2000s. In 2021 is vastly different, and, post this new era world. But like, yeah, you're right. There is a queue, there is a line, there is some centralized demand around a launch. People do camp out sometimes days, if not weeks in advance for it. And they are getting very limited pairs. Like you said, it could be 5, it could be a tens, but they're instantly selling it right now. Like they're finding all these places to basically list sneakers.
So I assume that you're not the guy who's out buying them. You're actually more a marketplace, I think you said, where other people who've bought them come to the site to sell them, or
Yes.
do you take ownership in them?
So actually, we do take ownership in them. We actually do buy a few strategic pairs at under market value, and we might be able to basically resell at a later time because some people might need that cash right now, or liquidate their asset or their collection, for an engagement ring.
And what's the name of the site?
It's called Just Flip. It's actually called Flip, but you could go to the site at justflip.com.
Cool. So Just Flip, if I went, I won't go there now, but and I encourage people to stay focused on this podcast. Do not get distracted and go look at his website now. I'll give you plenty of chances at the end. But if I was to go, it sounds like basically there's going to be a wide selection of sneakers to choose from. And some of them are ones that you own. Some of them are being sold by other people.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that right? Yep. Some of them are being sold by us, and vast majority of them are being sold by other people or storefronts that operate with a bunch of resellable inventory.
And is it like I just need to is it more like an Amazon marketplace, for example, where you don't really know who you're transacting with, or in fact, is it like eBay, where it's very important to know who you're transacting with?
So I think it's a little bit of both, right? So there are that come on there, like our brands. Like I said, we have storefront partners that operate brick and mortar locations where they house these sneakers, and they just need an online liquidation platform, so they come to us. And they promote their brand, and it gives them a cool way to engage with their following and build social and all that. But there are individuals that essentially might be a employee of a brand that has access to this product that doesn't want you to know who they are exactly, but uses an alias, but still transacts on our platform. We just want to make sure that the item is authentic, and that the actual person receives it as described.
And how long have you been doing this for?
We've been live since 2016.
Wow. And who is we?
So it's.
Do you have a team?
Yeah, it's a very lean team. I'm actually a sole founder, and I have about 5 other individuals on the team. There's split up across engineering and operations.
And give me just a quick sense of scale. And I don't know whether that's dollars or pairs of sneakers transacted, or how big of a deal is this?
So I think we're still on the radar. We've been heads down working out some technology on the authentication front, because we've realized some things in the market in terms of increasing the speed of sale, because we're a peer-to-peer platform versus what other marketplaces might operate as like a ship-to-verify model. But right now we're literally at the 80,000 user mark, and we're seeing we've total in probably sneakers, I would say over 10,000 pairs have come through our hands of successfully authenticated products.
And God, I have so many questions, but I'll try and limit it so we can get to some of your questions. When you use the term peer-to-peer, meaning that it is in some ways like an eBay, where basically you just connect two people, and someone transfers the money to them, but then they send the sneakers to that person. It doesn't bounce through you or anything.
Well,
like
actually,
that.
we handle the payment flow. We actually hold on to the payment, so the actual buyer gets assured that they get the product in hand and be able to have inspection time, to be able to flag for any kind of like things like counterfeit.
Okay, so what do you want to talk about today? What can I help you with?
So like Mark, we've been exploring a few different things. Like, I started this trying to fix this as for a problem with me specifically, and maybe some of my friends, and then scale out to maybe a wider community of individuals that share these same problem sets. But it's always interesting when you talk about like community in the sense of building one and really kind of having your business speak to those things, right? And for us, there's no bigger notion around community. So we look at it in 2 different ways on like, how can we interact with our community? So we just actually recently launched this thing called Flip TV, which is curated sneaker content, where you can like figure out what to buy, how to style, maybe even, see like some of the latest history around or storytelling around these products, right? And that's really cool. And then there's another side of this where we actually look at the community and how do we make that happen for our business in a way that's organic, where we're able to give them the services and products they want at value that they necessarily would like, right? And one of our biggest things is transaction fees. So we've been looking at exploring a subscription model. So I actually wanted to talk to you about those two things. Subscription for a marketplace in sense of building that community and actually kind of help managing and mitigating that risk of fraud and abuse that might happen, but also tying in the sense of, we're looking at video content, user generated content, influencer content around, these assets that people are essentially like making more money on than the stock market.
I totally hear you, and I think both of those are actually very related. So this is a great topic for us to talk about. Give me a quick sense. What is the average frequency of a buyer transacting or a seller transacting? In other words, out of the 10,000 pairs, how many people do you think have done it once, twice, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times?
So actually, on average, we're seeing the pair being resold 3 times, 2 to 3 times, before it actually gets to a consumer that consumes it.
But so the person who comes to the site, let's take a person who's coming to the site as a buyer.
Yes.
They're looking to buy one. They come and they buy a pair of sneakers. Do they come back and buy another pair of sneakers later? And is that common?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. There's sometimes our offering is a little bit more on, I said, the rare side than what you can find on the market, because again, these things are dead stock. Like, it's all based on supply and demand and scarcity. So something that might be vintage, meaning from 10, 20 years ago, it is actually real, but there's not a huge market right now for that specific item. And we might run a strategic 90-minute auction for that item for our seller. They're using our feature. But what's interesting there is we can centralize that demand around, like, in our community, around the individuals that might have been looking for that pair, right? That might be their grail that needed to complete their collection. That could be the one pair that got away when they were younger, and now that they can, splurge, they'll love to actually own that pair. So that happens all the time, Mark. And then we also have just individuals coming and chasing every single Nike or latest release drop every single weekend. So it's
Are the buyers and sellers the same? In other words, is this for example, if you look at a financial trading, someone buy in the same day, they're going to buy and they're going to sell, and they're going to come back the next day and sell what they bought, and they're going to buy something new. Is that the same case here?
I think there is definitely some overlap. I think there is, but I think there is a strict difference between somebody that's looking at this as a revenue source or a livelihood or actually trading at scale. So they're almost looking at it like as an investment. And then there's, people that actually wear. So those are the consumers, which I think the other guys are kind of building for. We're looking at like, hey, who's actually investing in this thing, and how many times do you guys are like want to sell in, a very fast liquid marketplace. So, it's the market right now isn't like that. Obviously, it doesn't perform that way, but you do see this. Like, for instance, I have a partner that bought something on a competitor site to see how fast they could get it. By the time they actually got it, it was too late. From the time they wanted to actually sell the item, that was at a higher price point while it was in transit to them. So, there are people that want to essentially, like you said, like invest and trade these things and look at it as an asset class. And then there are some people that just consume purely, and they're, just consumers that love the actual product. But there is some overlap, but I think there is a distinction between between the two.
Okay. Well, here's my thoughts. The subscription piece of it, I think, is a subset of what I'm going to talk about. So we'll circle back to subscriptions because it gets folded in, which is, it's so critical in any startup. But I think it, particularly in this one, is to have this really, really clear idea of who you're serving, and then get to know in this deep way what it is they want. And the community ends up focusing on that. And I know, of course, that you already think that way. But let me try and twist it just a teeny bit. And you may already be doing this. But to some degrees, your site may not be just about sneakers. It is really about the process of buying and selling sneakers, which is somewhat different because you could make this into a fan site. And I'm sure there's lots of fan sites. I'm sure there's lots of Instagram, TikTok, websites, people who can tell you all the cool things that are happening and how do they reviews and all that. And you may say, no, that is my business, but it sounds like you're more commerce driven, that you actually make revenue only when sneakers pass from one person to the other, which means that I think the slight spin here is that this is about the transaction piece of it. That what you're all about is the market for sneakers. It's the people who want, it's about buying, it's about selling, and a little bit less about collecting. And so that as you're beginning to think through what are the components I use to support my community, I think you have to measure them against how directly do they impact that narrower niche for me. In other words, you have a lot of competition from people who are all about high-end sneakers. But maybe you're a little bit more differentiated when it says we're the ultimate platform for flipping shoes in one or the other. And that your content begins to focus more on that. Your features focus more on that. Your features, for example, rather than saying, here's some cool stuff that's coming out, yours go, here's what the price tracking has looked like. In other words, you're building this expertise in forecasting. You're doing a Jim Cramer-like thing for shoes, which is, I really see this as a hot, but it's not because of popularity. It's because it's all about transaction. And in terms of as you're prioritizing features, I mean, you've been an engineer for a long time, and you know that there's always 100 more things on the list of what needs to get built versus what you have the ability to build. And this key component of being a good product person is that feature prioritization. And I would absolutely, in your case, be prioritizing the features in your site which go toward transaction ability.
Yeah.
I love what you just kind of hinted at, which is allowing people to have wish list, allowing people to say, I've been looking for this my whole life. I have this deep emotional attachment. And building in the quick notification system. It's being able to build in the automatic tracking of what's happening with the prices. Having the index of being able to go and on the site you have what your inventory of shoes are. And you can go every day and look at the real-time market value of what you have. I mean, it's basically building stock tracking, but for sneakers. Of course, you do have to layer in all the emotional component, which is fundamentally people are doing this because they love this category. So you do need all of the feel-good pieces.
Definitely.
But I think there's a big opportunity here to be doubling down on this transactional component of it, because you'll attract people who are the type that you make revenue from every time they sell or buy on your platform. And let's jump into subscription briefly.
Definitely.
And the reason I said it's a subset is because I think you have to evaluate subscription based on, is it a feature that people would love who are transacting? And subscription businesses are fundamentally reliant on repeat behavior. That you subscribe to something because you do this mental calculation of how often you're going to use it. And it sounds like if you do both, if this becomes a subset of this community, if your community piece is all about focused on people making it easier to transact, more interesting to transact, this is the place to come. It makes so much more sense to buy it and sell it here than it would to do it on eBay because I get all these other features. It would lend itself very nicely to something that people gets recurring benefit from.
Definitely.
And it's really the thing that jumped into my head is it's Prime. I mean, it's like Amazon Prime,
Absolutely.
where you have basically you have these price points, and let's just use Amazon for a minute.
Okay.
I don't. Is it $99 a year? God,
I think it's
so part of my
120
life.
now or something. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! But you see, that just goes to show I don't even care.
Exactly, right?
Because you go, oh my gosh, I use Amazon so frequently. Just the fact that I don't pay shipping, the fact that I get it the next day, I don't even care. 129 is a bargain.
Absolutely.
So I think for you, absolutely it makes sense. And there's two pieces to this you could do. One is, of course, someone doing the math on it. And listen, when you did Netflix, and the big evolution, of course, of Netflix was a year and a half in, all of a sudden realizing we could do subscription. But as you're playing with the price point, you've got to understand people are doing that math in their head. And video rental was an easy one because they'd go, okay, we're charging you at the beginning. We were a DVD by mail business. We're charging $14.95 for all the DVDs you can rent.
Yeah.
And you could hear people from 100 miles away. You hear their brains spinning as they're going, let's see, it's $4 each time. So let's see, I have to do that. What is that? 4 times? Oh, 4? That's an easy break even for me. I rent more than 4. Another business that I worked with for a while, and this is going to taint me, but I did it during the good years, was MoviePass. Wow. And at the beginning, MoviePass was $50 a month or some crazy number. And the people did the math, and they go, wow, that's a lot of movies. I don't watch that many movies. And so they had to drop the price down to one where people could do the math. So for you, you'll have that exact same problem based on how you price this, is setting a price which is low enough that someone does the math and goes, oh my gosh, all I have to do is sell 6 pairs a year, and I come out ahead.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece of it. And then what usually happens is people's eyes are bigger than their stomach and that they end up using it a lot less than they thought they would. But they still like the service. So the second piece of subscription, and again, this ties in entirely into you having this deep, deep understanding of the transactional psyche of the sneaker buyer and seller, is you begin adding on all of these non-economic considerations for being a flip it member, or whatever you want to call your subscription program.
Definitely.
For example, the market for limited edition things is by its very nature time sensitive. And having your Flip Club members, they get the email that something interesting just came on the market first. Wow, that's incredibly compelling. And a reason that you'd want to pay X dollars per month or X dollars per quarter or X dollars per year. And there's so many more things that you can add in. You could, for example, go, we give you the general, every day you can come on and get the general price trends. But for our specialized price trend report, that's only available for free, of course, to our Flip Club members.
Yep. Our members.
Yeah, you also have, you can also have, it's basically kind of this freemium thing where you have these things on the site which are all designed to make this an amazing place to understand how to do this. And then for these members, they get a little bit above and beyond that other people do. Even, for example, the people who do want to continually track the changing value of their own portfolio, that might be something that's only available for members. I mean, there's all these kind of things, but you can see it starts not with the subscription. It starts with having this very, very concentrated feeling about what are these core features that are going to appeal to how I position the company. And then once you have this list of features, it's fairly straightforward to say, let's begin taking a list of them and saying these all go into the subscription program. But I absolutely can smell that this would be a really, really powerful way for you to accelerate what you're doing.
No, thank you, Mark. That makes so much sense. I'm literally, kind of teasing through a little bit what you were kind of hinting at, and like you said, we're looking at how we can best serve both the buyer and seller and keep those repeat transactions and ultimately build this real community that supports obviously the buying and selling of these things. But at the transactional layer, we're literally there, right? We've been able to build out the technology utilizing blockchain and actually be able to track and trace while provide real-time valuation on these assets.
Well, Kemar, there's a couple of things that it's going to be tricky for you.
Yeah.
And I pardon me to type you, but engineer brain is somewhat different than marketer brain. And be careful of not getting buried too deep in the technical beauty of some of the things you're building.
Definitely.
And you're going to have to force yourself to bring yourself back up to the customer level, which, I mean, you are a, what's the word, multi-skill athlete here, in the fact that you are able to do both the engineering and the marketing and the positioning. But it's a critical one. And especially the danger here as you're looking at your customer set is how do I say this? When you're trying to say, who is this feature for? How do I prioritize it?
Yep.
The best way to do that is to pick the center of your universe, which is the one perfect customer type, as opposed to viewing it as this mass of thousands of people and saying, well, who would it appeal? Are there enough people that, no, go, I have this ideal customer in mind, and I have that picture in my head so strongly, and a lot of companies even write them down. They give them names. They'll go, my ideal customer is Mark. Mark is 26 years old. Mark owns 37 pairs. Mark sells and buys. I mean, Mark makes this amount of money. They make it very, very concrete. They build this persona of the ideal customer, because then when they're evaluating the strength and weakness of a various product, they can picture, would Mark like this or not?
Actually, yeah, they can see clearly the value adds, right?
Correct. As opposed to getting confused about our customer with no. Pick one.
Definitely.
And it doesn't mean it has to be black and white in that it's either in or out. It could be, you just measure how you want to prioritize this feature based on its distance from Mark. In other words, oh my God, he would use that tomorrow and he would use it every single day. Well, he might use this once a week, or he'd use this once a month, but when he did, it would be killer. It's kind of defining your market by its center, not by its boundaries, which is a very kind of a powerful way to figure out who these are. And you might, in your case, to say, I actually have two. I have Mark, who's the collector. He never sells, he buys, but here's how often he buys. Here's what he's looking for. He spends 3 hours a day on eBay, and he has 74 searches programmed.
Mm-hmm. No.
And then I have over here, I have Kemar. Kemar is he's my day trader. And those are the two personas. And then you're going, okay, what features can I build which both of them would love? Which are the ones that Kemar would love? Which ones that Mark would love? Now, there's other ones, these would be neat, and I know people would use it. No. Focus on nailing the core of your market, because then if I get this right, Mark's going to be there's a million Marks out there, and I can attract them if I build them for him. That's just there's my little tip on how to be a product guy, which I already are, but I mean, how to then use this when you're building the community, to be thinking about, who am I building this community for? Who do I want in my community? And combining that whole feature set and the people part. And then you can go back and, I'm sorry, you can tell that when I get started, it's hard to shut me up.
No, Mark, I'm loving every moment of this. I'm loving every moment of it. I'm literally just taking it all in, and obviously it's giving me so much clarity and reassurance in some of the things that we're already doing, but definitely more clarity and laser focus, right?
That's awesome. And for example, you can go back and do a little offsite with your employees and say, let's take a look at all the features we've built. Let's look at all the features we have on the horizon. What are the marketing programs? And let's evaluate them on this matrix. First of all, who is our core customers, and how do these all fit? And you can go back and say, for example, Flip TV.
Yep.
You go, gosh, the resources that consumes, the dollars that consumes, the time, the attention, is that really targeted? Or are there some other things that I could do that might be more powerful or more compelling? And I'm not saying it is or isn't. I don't know. I'm just saying you can not only use it for prioritizing what you have going forward, but here comes your little Instagram quote. It's almost more important to decide what not to do than it is to decide what to start doing.
Absolutely. Wow. I'm definitely going to use it on Instagram for sure.
Listen, it's all fair game as long as you tag me. I mean.
I'll definitely tag you, Mark. Definitely. Yeah. No.
So, Kemar, does this kind of put you on a slightly better path? Does this kind of give you a sense of what
This
help you, I guess? Answer
this
these
is exactly
questions
what I
about
was looking for. This is like I can't wait till we talk next time for the update, right? Like it's really amazing because I at first even some of my partners were like, hey, what are you gonna talk to him about? And I'm like, well, just listen, wait, I got something. I think that he there's no better person to at least be picking his brain around in these two spheres. And if he gets what I'm doing with this specialized sneaker thing, or how it can maybe scale to other things, who knows? Like, I could probably land on something really terrific here. And you never cease to amaze, Mark. You never cease to amaze.
Well, the cool thing is, Kemar, the best companies are ones that have identified a niche which is so compelling that you can own it. That I know who these people are, and there's no one else serving them, and they are desperate for this set of features, and you begin building it. And if you get that right, it gives you this platform to go into adjoining categories. And as you know, there are absolutely other fervent adjoining communities of people who are crazy about collecting this types of things. And I won't go into it because I know we could both name a whole bunch of them. But I love the fact that you're sticking to your knitting, as they say. You're focused on the shoe collector, shoe transactor, and you should. But I'm saying that once you get this right, all these exact same features, this exact same discipline will put you in a perfect position for in a couple of years when you lift your head up and go, okay, I think it's ready to go into 2 new categories. And your customers will tell you what those categories might even be.
I can't wait.
Yeah, you brought something up. You said when we talk next, and we are going to talk next because I am going to get back to you sometime in the future and find out where this went. And for those people who are listening to this, who I warned against going to your keyboard and distracting yourself by looking at the website, I will say now is an okay time, or in a few minutes it'll be okay to go back and check out justflip.com. Is that the right name, Kemar?
Yep. You can find Flip at justflip.com. You're absolutely correct, Mark. Thanks for the plug.
Fantastic. And you'll be able to watch real time as Kemar begins building this into an even more powerful community for people who are passionate about sneakers. Well, Kemar, thanks so much. Listen, good luck with everything, and keep on going. I love what you're doing. I love the fact that you're an engineering driven. I get too many people who are the marketing level dreamers who then have to get someone else to build it for them. So I love the fact that you can dream it and then you can build it, and that's a really powerful combination.
Hey, thank you for all the kind words and having me, Mark. I look forward to definitely catching up in the future, and more power to this awesome platform you're building. It's amazing.
Thanks, all right. Good luck.
Right.
Bye-bye.